The sun was already beginning to dip below the horizon of Brooklyn Heights, painting the sky with hues of burnt orange and soft gold. It was the kind of late afternoon that seemed to promise tranquility. The streets were alive, yet calm. Couples strolled, cyclists cut through the avenues, and children laughed in some nearby park. But as with so many stories that begin with a false sense of peace, this one was also about to take an unexpected turn. Keanu Reeves walked silently down a cobblestone street, a faint smile on his face, and his gaze fixed on his scene partner, Buddy, a muscular pit bull with gray fur and alert eyes. The dog strode beside him with steady steps, occasionally casting a glance at the man, as if to confirm he was on the right path. The bond between them, forged behind the scenes of John Wick, had already transcended the boundaries of the set. There, on that impromptu walk between takes, Keanu sought more than just a brief moment of rest. He wanted to connect with the animal who would, in the coming days, be his companion in the film's most emotional scenes. The warmth of the afternoon lingered, even as the sun began to set. Buddy panted frequently, and Keanu noticed it with concern. "Let's find some water for you, boy. It won't take long," he said in a low voice, almost as if speaking to an old friend. Their route took them through quiet streets, graffiti-covered alleys, and small businesses starting to close up for the day. Then across the street, Keanu spotted a public dog water fountain, installed right next to a diner with a long row of outdoor tables. Immediate relief. He crossed the street with Buddy, who quickened his pace upon realizing fresh water was within reach. As Buddy quenched his thirst with enthusiasm, Keanu crouched down, observing every detail. The dog's eyes grew livelier. His breathing began to slow. "That's it, boy. Take it easy," he said, running his hand affectionately over the dog's head. The diner was bustling. The sound of laughter, clinking cutlery, and glasses filled the air. A few people noticed Keanu, but, as usual, he was discreet enough not to draw excessive attention. Still, someone recognized him. A younger waiter approached, smiling. "Mr. Reeves, I'm a huge fan. I love your movies," the young man said, a bit awkwardly. Keanu smiled warmly. "Thanks. We're just taking a break. Buddy here needed some water." The waiter crouched down to pet the dog. "What a beast. Strong, huh?" he said, impressed. It was at that moment that the serene atmosphere shattered. From inside the diner emerged a jarring figure. A large man with a scruffy beard, a leather jacket adorned with gang patches, dirty boots, and a dark glare. He walked slowly toward the sidewalk where Buddy stood. The man carried an air of provocation, someone looking for trouble just for the thrill of it. "Nice little dog," he said with a sarcastic grin, "but it takes up too much space." And without warning, he raised his leg and delivered a brutal kick to Buddy's side. The impact was sharp and violent. The pit bull yelped in agony and stumbled, struggling to back away. The waiter froze. Keanu, however, didn't hesitate. In an instant, he was on his feet, standing between Buddy and the attacker. The look he gave the man was pure ice. There was no shouting, no overt rage, just a silent intensity that paralyzed. "You kicked my dog," Keanu said, his voice so low it sounded like distant thunder. "It's not yours. Just a movie mutt," the man mocked. "Doesn't matter," Keanu replied. "He trusted me, and you attacked him." The silence around them was absolute. The street's movement halted. The diner's patrons watched in stillness. Buddy whimpered softly behind Keanu, still shaken, trying to stay upright. The man took a step forward, his eyes attempting to intimidate, but something shifted in his stance. He recognized the face before him. Keanu's fame wasn't that of just any star. It was that of a man known for his character, his cool-headedness, his sense of justice. There was something unshakable in his presence. "Stay out of my way," the man muttered before backing off and disappearing around the corner. Keanu stood still for a few seconds, just breathing, until he finally turned to Buddy. He knelt beside him, checking the spot where the kick had landed. The dog trembled, but there didn't seem to be any serious injury. The waiter approached, shaken. I saw everything. That guy's from a gang around here. They cause trouble all the time, but they've never messed with a dog before." Keanu thanked him with a nod and stood, his eyes still dark. "He'll be back. This isn't over." But for now, the priority was getting Buddy to safety. Keanu decided to head to the nearest veterinary clinic. As they walked, he felt the weight of responsibility. Buddy had been hurt because of him, because of a simple walk that should have been peaceful. The clinic was small but welcoming. The receptionist recognized Keanu immediately and rushed to help when she saw Buddy limping. "What happened?" the vet asked, alarmed, as she took the dog into the exam room. "He was attacked," Keanu replied, his jaw tight. "A man kicked him. Hard." Buddy was examined carefully. Fortunately, there were no fractures, but there was a risk of internal trauma. He'd need to stay under observation. Keanu agreed instantly. "I'll stay here with him," he said, resolute, "as long as it takes." The vet looked at him for a moment. "You're a busy man. We can call if anything changes." "No, I'm staying." The hours passed slowly. Keanu sat beside Buddy, who now rested on a stretcher, his gaze calmer. The connection between them deepened with every minute. As he watched the dog, Keanu felt something he'd never experienced so strongly before. A silent fury, an indignation burning inside. It wasn't just about Buddy. It was about all the innocent creatures hurt for sport, about gratuitous cruelty, about power being used to intimidate those who can't defend themselves. It was time to change that. The next morning, the sun had barely risen when Keanu left the clinic with Buddy. The dog, still a bit shaky, walked beside him with a timid but evident confidence. The night of observation had been uneventful, and the tests showed no internal injuries. The relief was palpable, but Keanu wasn't relieved. Not yet. Something inside him remained quiet and tense, like a coiled spring ready to release. As they walked through the still empty streets, Keanu devised a plan. The man who'd hurt Buddy hadn't acted alone. The symbol on his jacket, a tiger's claw, was known in the area. It belonged to a local biker group notorious for intimidation, petty trafficking, and random violence. And now, for attacking animals. Keanu knew involving the police could complicate filming, but there was a line. When violence reaches the defenseless, someone has to act. He thought of Buddy, the residents, the diner staff, visibly intimidated. This wasn't just about him. Without wasting time, Keanu contacted an old friend from his days shooting films in rough areas, Hank Morrison, now an active sheriff in the state. Hank was known for handling delicate situations with discretion and efficiency. "Hank, it's Keanu. I need you in Brooklyn. There's a group doing whatever they want around here. One of them attacked a dog yesterday, a dog under my responsibility." On the other end of the line, a brief silence was followed by a firm tone. "Tell me the name of the place." "A bar called Iron and Ash, 3 blocks from Atlantic. Their symbol's a tiger's claw." Hank didn't hesitate. "I'm on my way. Just tell me if you need your identity kept out of it." "Completely," Keanu replied. "This can't turn into a headline. I just want justice." While awaiting Hank's update, Keanu spent the afternoon observing the bar. Sitting on a discreet bench across the street, wearing a cap and sunglasses, he noted the gang members' movements, their comings and goings, their behavior patterns. And once again, the face of the man who'd kicked Buddy appeared among the group. Anger tried to surface, but Keanu took a deep breath. He needed clarity, strategy. Late that afternoon, Hank arrived in an unmarked car with 2 investigators. They met at a nearby cafe, where Keanu detailed the incident, even showing security footage from the diner that the waiter had managed to recover. The exact moment of the attack on Buddy. Hank reviewed the video, his brow furrowed. "This is more than enough. We'll move today, but I want you to stay out of it." Keanu nodded. "Fine, as long as you do it right." The operation was executed with precision. Armed with warrants and a formal complaint of animal cruelty, abuse, trafficking, and intimidation, Hank's team raided Iron and Ash that evening. Their arrival was silent, tactical, like something out of a movie. The bar's lights were still on, and the loud music masked the initial sounds of the approach. Within minutes, the police had taken control. Men were searched, weapons were found, and in a back room, hidden under a trap door, were several packages of illegal substances. Everything was duly recorded and photographed. The man who'd attacked Buddy tried to resist. He cursed, thrashed, but ended up handcuffed amid protests. As he passed Keanu, watching from a distance, his eyes widened in shock. He recognized the face behind the sunglasses. You set this up!" he shouted. being dragged by two officers. Keanu remained expressionless. He stepped forward, approached the handcuffed man, and said only, "Remember what you did yesterday? Now you'll have plenty of time to think about it." No journalists were called. The operation was conducted with total discretion, and Hank ensured Keanu's name stayed out of the reports. In less than an hour, the aggressors were en route to the station, and the bar was sealed. The next morning, local news merely mentioned a surprise operation against a biker group, with few details. The community, though, knew something had shifted. The neighborhood breathed easier. Back on set, Keanu was greeted with quiet applause from the crew. Someone had mentioned he'd spent the night with Buddy, and that somehow the gang's bar had been shut down. No one asked questions. They all just respected it. Buddy returned to set 2 days later, recovered and wagging his tail. When he saw Keanu, he ran toward him and leapt with enough force to nearly knock him over. Keanu laughed, holding the dog steady. "We did it, boy." That afternoon, they filmed an intense scene between the two characters. At the end, the director said there was a different energy in the air. Something genuine, something unrehearsed. And he was right. After the day's filming, Keanu gave a brief interview to a film magazine. When asked about his bond with Buddy, he smiled and said, "Cinema has its staged truths, but every now and then, life hands you something very real. And this dog here, he's taught me more than any script ever could." Buddy, beside him, seemed to understand every word. In the days that followed, Keanu kept in touch with Hank, following the case's developments. He learned the attacker would face formal charges of animal cruelty, criminal association, and illegal possession of substances. The bar would remain closed, and its owner would answer for complicity. The once cowed community began to reorganize. The waiter from the diner got a promotion. The waitress who'd been threatened returned to work, supported by locals who started frequenting the place more often as a show of solidarity. Small gestures that, together, showed fear had diminished. Keanu, as always, avoided the spotlight on the matter. But inside, he knew that decision, not staying silent in the face of a cowardly act, had changed something. Not just in the neighborhood, not just on set, but within himself. On a sunny Sunday with the city quieter, he took Buddy to a wooded park on the outskirts of Manhattan. They sat under a tree, watching the calm movement of families, dogs playing, and children running. Keanu picked up a stick and tossed it for Buddy, who chased it with renewed energy. When he returned, he lay down beside him, resting his head on his leg. "You're more than a scene partner, you know that?" Keanu said, running his hand over the dog's fur. "You're a reminder that sometimes we have to act, even when we don't want to, even when it costs us." Buddy just closed his eyes, as if saying he understood everything. Back at the hotel that night, Keanu watched the city lights through the window, with Buddy sleeping soundly beside him. The world kept spinning out there, with its dramas and injustices, but in that moment, there was peace. A lesson had been lived and shared, that even on a casual walk, good can be put to the test, and silent courage can make a difference. If you believe more people need to hear stories like this, subscribe to the channel. And remember, never ever underestimate the power of a man and his dog.